you ever wanted a brutally difficult platformer that stars a jetpack-wielding ballet dancer? No? Oh, well, you're going to want to stay tuned anyway, because Necrosphere is a game that you never knew you wanted. So in Necrosphere, you play as this suave dude, Terry, that has just awakened in this place called the Necrosphere. All you can remember is being rushed to the hospital after an ambush of some sort. Your fellow agents survived, I think, but you were not so lucky. So the Necrosphere is a metroidvania of sorts with an interesting gimmick with the controls. The entire game is played with just two buttons, a button to move left and a button to move right. So, how do you have a platformer with no jump button? Well, that's where the gameplay can get kind of interesting. You traverse this labyrinth using the environment around you. There are bubbles that bounce you into the air, reverse gravity waterfall things that carry you upwards, friendly thwomps to ride on. There's also doors, switches, time switches, and little green booger men that want to kill you again. All of these things are arranged together in some very creative ways that will first have you scratching your head at how to solve the puzzle, and then raging at how difficult it is to execute. Finally leaving you with feeling very accomplished for having surpassed this difficult feat. And then it's on to the next task. So there are 4 main upgrades in the Necrosphere. First, a sweet ballet leotard that allows you to leap over small gaps in style. It doesn't give you much vertical lift, however, so you're still pretty limited in your ability to get around by yourself. Then there are these gauntlets that allow you to break concrete blocks with your bare hands. It's merely a mechanic used to gate off certain areas, but you can kill those green booger men now, and that's pretty satisfying. The best upgrade though, in my humble opinion, is the jetpack. Now you can finally have some vertical movement. And this is where the platforming starts to get very interesting and really difficult. There's also a 4th upgrade, but it's secret and I'm not going to spoil that here in the review, but just take my word on it. It's pretty awesome. So I called this game a Metroidvania earlier, but it's really more accurate to call it a Metroidvania Lite. And that's because if you're just out to make the credits roll, then there's hardly any backtracking needed at all. If you're a completionist and want to get all the collectibles, however, you will be revisiting some areas, and that's when the Metroidvania nature shines through. The collectibles come in the form of DVDs, because apparently, even after death, Terry can't get enough of his sitcoms. Anyway, there are 20 in all, and you'll get 2 achievements for collecting them. And speaking of achievements, this game has a really nice set of them, and they were a lot of fun to unlock. Minus 1. I think this is a good time to go into more detail about the controls, which happen to be both the source of my only real complaint and also something that I really enjoyed about the game. As I mentioned before, everything is done with just 2 buttons. And while I like the innovative nature of this, I'm not so sure that it was worth sacrificing the potential of the game's control just to adhere to the gimmick of a 2-button control scheme. Especially in a precision platformer like this. The control would be much tighter with dedicated dash and jetpack buttons, and the game would be much better overall, I think. Instead, you double tap a direction to perform your ballet leap, and you press both buttons at the same time to use your jetpack. This game has some really devious sections that had my 2 fingers so tangled up trying to keep my controls straight. It sounds simple, but there's definitely a learning curve. Once you get it down though, your ability really opens up and it feels awesome. If you have played Plague of Shadows DLC for the Shovel Knight, you have probably had a similar experience. Plague Knight's abilities are a bit awkward to use at first, but when you get them down, you become a literal god of the skies. If this is your type of game and you want to challenge yourself, you definitely need to pick up the deluxe version. That comes with not only a copy of the great soundtrack, but also the DLC level Terry's Dream. If while playing Necrosphere you found yourself thinking, man, this game is great, but it's just too easy, because I'm like so amazing at video games and stuff. Well, first of all, modesty is a virtue, I'm pretty sure. And secondly, Terry's Dream has got you covered. This bonus level ramps up the difficulty in a brutal way. It really tests the skills that you have been cultivating for the last couple of hours. It had me raging pretty good, I'll admit, but I'm so glad that they added this level. It was icing on an already delicious cake. Except for this part. Just why? Why? All in all, this is a fantastic game that I would gladly pay 4 times the retail price for the amount of fun that I had. It is a fairly short game, probably 2 to 3 hours on your first playthrough, but totally worth it given how cheap it is. And yes, this game is hard, but don't let that turn you off. With instant respawns and very frequent checkpoints, it rarely gets frustrating. If you like platformers, I definitely recommend checking it out.